Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Facebook and YouTube Live. I'm Kathy Fromme with Who's Front of Viking Education Department. And today we are going to be enhancing our holiday projects with some decorative stitches and working with some different feet today. So it's sort of like a little amalgamation of different things, not terribly focused on one specific thing, but more about being creative. All right, so I hope you'll follow along, and please, if you have questions, just ask, put those in the chat for us. In the background, we have Amy with us today, and she'll be monitoring your questions and forwarding any questions to me that I can answer. So we'll be back and forth a little bit to take care of your questions. Hope that you'll share with us in the chat where you're from, where you're watching from. It's always nice to see how many different states or even countries we can get in one of our events. Remember that today's broadcast is recorded, so if you miss part of it, that's okay. You can come back and watch it anytime. And the good thing about the replays is you can stop and start if you need to see a different technique again. All right, so let's get started. I think the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to talk about our little pillow, and you can kind of see it over my shoulder behind me. It's called the Retro Pop-Up Pine Pillow. That is a mouthful. Retro Pop-Up Pine Pillow. I'm looking at my cheat sheet over here, and I'm going to grab that here in just a minute and show you a close-up of that pillow. And I'm going to share how we create that pine tree. All right, so bear with me just a second, and I'll be right back with you. Oh, oops, that's not going to work. All right, we'll flip back. All right, here we go. So this project is linked in the description. Amy put a link to it, so you can easily find that. It is a downloadable PDF complete with the pattern pieces for all the applique. Now, this is not machine embroidery. This is traditional applique. So you can do this with any machine that has a satin stitch or even a zigzag stitch that you can shorten down to do a close stitch. The wheels, I used some vinyl here and then put a button in the middle. I should say I used vinyl for the tires and a button for the wheel here. And then just a little bit, doesn't really show well on camera, a little bit of a netting that's got a little reflection, like a little glitter on it for the windows. I didn't have any clear vinyl, but clear vinyl would have been a good idea to use for that too. But our focus today is going to be on making this lovely 3D pine tree. Okay. And we're going to make it today using one of our exclusive stitches on our Who's Front of Viking machines. It can be found on many of the stitches. In just a second, I'll swap over to the machine and you can see it. I do want to take a moment to show you the back. It just has a button flange here to close the pillow. So if you have a lot of different holiday pillows, you can always easily take out that pillow form and put in your winter pillow and store your Christmas pillows flatter. So it's good for good storage. So all right, let's come back and go over to our machine here. There we go. And I'm going to talk about our pattern piece and how we make this. So let me just set that over to the side. Make sure that you are seeing what you should be seeing. So materials to make the pine tree portion of the project, you're going to need the pattern piece, which I've cut out from the printed template. I just made sure that I printed the template at 100% so that everything would be to scale. And then you're going to need a base fabric. Trees are usually green. Of course, if you want to make a pink tree, that's totally fine with me. But your base color is probably going to want to be that tree color, whatever you choose. Okay. So I have a little green sample here, and then I have a tan sample here for contrast so you can see what I'm going to be sewing today. I know that, the matching tone-on-tone things don't show up very well on camera, so I'm going to use some high contrast fabrics here to do that. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need some tulle. So you can buy the tulle by the yard. You can buy these little decorator spools. They come in, I think this is a 6-inch spool. You can also find them in 3 inches. And to prep your tulle, you're going to cut them into little squares. I cut mine about 2-inch square. That's probably the hardest thing of the whole project is to cut all those little squares up. Not because it's difficult at all to cut it. It's just it's very staticky. Even though it's not really winter yet, I got some static going with that tool on my ruler. So I'm going to put those aside, and I do have my machine threaded with a contrast thread so that I'm hoping you'll be able to see it just a little bit better. And I have traced around my tree, the tree template on my felt. And I went ahead and used some ink once again so you could see it clearly. On my real project here, I have just used a white tailor's marker to do that, but didn't feel that you could see that real well on camera, so I went with some ink. You will also want a piece of stabilizer to go under your fabric, okay? And you want to work with this piece with just a little bit of a margin of extra room around it. So, maybe 1/2 inch all the way around my template. It's a lot easier to work with it big and then trim it down as you need it. So we're going to start with it big. Now, if we compare, you can see that we start here at the bottom of our tree, the widest part, and we're going to build our branches on top. So the pattern piece sits like so on the top of the car. So this is the bottom of our tree. All right. Once you get that in your mind, you'll be golden. For our settings on our machine, I'm going to take you over. Move that roller tool out of the way a little bit. I'm going to come over to my Joy of Sewing Advisor here. Whoops. Well, we'll go ahead and clear my ongoing work. I was playing around with a lot of things earlier, so not sure where I left you at. All right, so at the bottom here, I have my exclusive sewing techniques. These are the wonderful built-in tutorials and how-tos for many of our Husqvarna Viking machines. Anything that is a connected machine with a Wi-Fi connectivity has the Joy of Sewing Advisor and the instructions on how to do it. Does your book have the instructions? Absolutely, 100%. Your book has those directions. And you can view the book either on the machine or in our Creative 8 app, which is a huge time saver. I love having my owner's manuals open on my Creative 8 app just to scroll through and be able to pick something up real quick. You, of course, can also look at them on the computer because you can download the PDF version of it onto your computer. So today I am looking at dimensional stitches right here at the bottom, and I'm going to choose a pop-up stitches horizontal. So there are both vertical and horizontal, and there's combined pop-ups. So I'm going to choose the pop-up horizontal look. There we go. And on my screen, let me move it down just a little bit so you can see better. We have the instructions. There are 4 steps to the instructions, and then we have the content. So I know that many of us educators have shown you the value of the tutorials in the machine, but it bears repeating that everything you need to know about how to do one of our special stitches is right in the machine. From the list of materials, what foot to use, what thread you need, your base fabric, etc. And then how to load the stitch, which we can load the stitch right from the content tab built into the tutorial. We don't even have to leave the tutorial to go to another menu to find the stitch. I find that such a time saver. I also don't have to memorize what letter or number those stitches are. I can just use the content tab. And let me come back one more screen and show you that there is, of course, the animated video. There we go. That you can play. That's going to show you everything step by step, how to set up your machine, what foot to put on. In this case, we're not using the IDF. We're using the side motion foot, the S foot. Shows you how to do the stitch. Of course, if you need to, you can pause the video and rewind it, do that much, and continue forward. So I'm going to show you live, so you don't need the video player right now. So I'm just going to close that, come back to content. The best stitch that I found works well, I tried a couple of different stitches. The one I like and the directions recommend is in the content tab. It's going to be number 5. It is the stitch with one long straight stitch and then this fan shaped piece. That is your actual pop-up. Okay. So I'm going to select that. You can tell it's shaded. Now I don't really want to close this in case I want to reference the tutorial again. So there is a minimize. I'm going to use my rubber tip stylus to minimize it here between the X there. And then at the very top of the screen, because everybody always asks, well, where do you find it? If you minimized it, where can you find it again? And on the Design Arabic 3, I can open it up again by looking for the person reading the book. So the person reading the book is the tutorial. The book itself, the closed book, that is your user's guide. That's the difference there. So I know that's easy to forget where to find that piece. You don't have to go all the way back home again to find it. So, Amy, before I switch over to the machine, any questions?
No questions yet, Kathy. Just a bunch of hellos and how are yous?
Wonderful. Well, I'm well, and I hope everyone is doing equally well. All right. So I have that stitch selected, but it sure doesn't look like anything at all like the stitch in the preview. That's okay. This is one of our patented stitches, and it uses our built-in stop functions that are pre-programmed in the stitch to add the element, to add that little bit of netting to make our pop-up. Okay, so it's all right. This is truly the right stitch. I can double check it again if I wanted to by reopening my my menu. All right, let me switch cameras for you. There we go. All right, if we give this a minute, it should adjust to the light. And Amy, are we still in a good view? I had to move a little bit.
That's good right there.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So once again, I'm here at my tree pattern, my fabric base. This is going to be the bottom of the tree. So I'm going to start stitching here and do a row of pop-up stitches. A couple things to note is one, when you do it, please, use matching thread unless you're really looking for a contrast. I'm using just a white thread today, so hopefully you can see it as it pops up. And I want to use my needle down function when I stitch. So I'll go ahead and engage my needle down, and that puts me in pivot mode automatically. If for some reason when you use needle down and your foot doesn't pivot slightly so you can easily turn or rotate, you've probably turned off that feature in settings. You can just go right back into settings and turn it on again. So it's one of those choices you have. Love choices. The other thing I'm going to use today, instead of my foot control for this stitch, I'm going to use my start stop button, because this stitch, once again, is one of our patented stitches that has built-in stops. Let me show you how it works. I'm just going to press my start stop, and the machine has stopped with the needle down. I'm taking one of my little squares. Okay, I know that's pretty much impossible to see because it's very light when it's only one layer. I'm folding it into fourths. I don't have to be super fussy about how perfect my fourths are. If I wanted to, I could even fold it into eighths. I'm going to stick with fourths for right now. And then I'm going to place it next to my needle. It's going to be under my foot, but I'm just going to show you the positioning of where the netting is going to go. I am going to lift my foot up using my presser foot lift one time only. So that'll raise my foot up once. The reason why I say one time only, if you raise it again, it will also raise the needle out of the fabric, and we don't want that. So I think this gives you a little better view of how that fabric is. And there, should be able to see that pretty good right here. So that netting is just touching the needle, and then I'm going to press play again or start stop. The machine took a little tack, like a sideways stitch, going tut, 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 tut. I now rotate my entire project counterclockwise, just one turn, and press my start stop again. It is sewing a decorative element over top of the tacking stitch, and then I'm going to continue on. I rotate back, sew again, and I'm going to, when the machine stops, I've got another piece of netting here. And once again, I'll raise it up so you can see how I'm placing that. And I'll move my hand in just a minute. There you go. And let's just see. Sideways stitch, and then I'm doing a rotation 90 degrees back, and I'll do one more. Now at this point I'm kind of off of my pattern piece, you can see, so I'm just going to touch my thread cut and be done with that particular row of stitches. Okay, so let me give you a little better, wider angle view. There you go. And any questions? I hear something binging, Amy, so I'm not sure if that's you or something else.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't hear anything.
Okay, all right. Must be something else. Okay, all righty. So that's a row of stitches. Now let me switch over here to my green row. You can see a little better how nice it looks with matching thread. We want to fill this whole space with green to make our tree. So here's another one. Let me fold another one. We don't have to like be real rigid about where this goes, because we're looking for fullness and fluff. So to help us position another stitch, I'm going to come back over here to my machine. I've touched the projection icon here and open projection up. I'll turn it on by touching that toggle switch, and I lower my work light. You should get a better view when I switch cameras back. The choices I want on screen are going to be just stitch preview and stitch guide. I don't want the grid on. I'm just wanting to see where to stitch next and what that stitch is going to look like. So at my machine, we see the different elements of the stitch. So we see the straight stitch. We see the satin element, which is right here. And then we see the length of the space between the stitches. Do I always have to do, multiples? Maybe not. Like here, this end of the tree, this base is wider. So I probably do want to do a couple. And so this helps me decide where to start. You notice my stabilizer is a little bit larger than my my fabric piece. That's okay, because I want to get I want to fill this empty space here. So I'm going to go ahead and start up again. And I'm kind of offsetting my next row of stitches. Okay. And I can see that the next one's going to land, just past the one in the first row. And insert that.
Hey, Kathy.
Yes.
People are wondering, is this an editable stitch? Could you edit the amount of stitches between each of the pop-ups?
So, I thought about that and I took it into Stitch Creator, but you lose the stop functionality when you put it into Stitch Creator. So I would say no, but I wanted to show you, let me finish this one stitch and show you how I use just a single stitch in the single stitch program machine. And I found as I got higher up in my tree, I just used the single stitch program and life was a lot easier. So back at the screen, that is a really great question though. Let me see if I can show you. Got to get you a little bit lower here. Okay. At the bottom of the screen, if I go into Stitch Repeat and turn on Single Stitch Program, then I'm only going to see however many I have programmed. Right now I have 2. That's left over from something I was playing with earlier. If I set that Single Stitch Program to 1, it's only going to sew 1 repeat. And in conjunction with projection, I can get those stitches exactly where I want them to be. Another fabulous bonus is I can go into the tie-off menu at the bottom and I can choose where my tie-offs are going to be. Since I'm doing a single isolated stitch, I want it to be there. I don't want any chance of it coming loose. So I can do a tie-off at the beginning and the end of the stitch. And if I want the threads to cut for me automatically and go below my project, I can actually program or add that thread cut in. Or I have the ability to select all, and then it's going to do everything for me. So let me do one more stitch showing that single stitch program at the machine so you can get a better view. So you can see already I have a gap going on there, and you can't really see this, but I am folding another piece of my tulle before I get going here. And I want to put it about here. All right, so I can see where my machine's going to stop. I wanted to get this thread out of the way. Sorry guys, those loose threads kind of bug me there. I want to be able to easily trim that later. So we're going to start here, and I can make this close. I can make it further away. I can choose wherever I want it to be. So let's go ahead and start. All right, and place my fabric. That's the tack part. And then after the tack is when you rotate counterclockwise 1 turn. It does the pretty satin stitch to hold it. And then you would finish the stitch. Now I have my stop sign. You can't see it, but my stop is illuminated. You can see the needle slowing down, tying off, and then my thread cutter is cutting that tail of my threads. So I now have just that 1 stitch that I used as a filler. All right. So you can see, it's going to take a little bit of time to build the stitch. However, it does not have to be like so rigid. Like you can really get like a foundation layer going, kind of fill in the tree. Let me turn it this way for you from bottom to top. and then come back and do some additional layers on the tree. So what a fun way to use a plain, just an ordinary pop-up stitch in a different way. Think of what else you could create, not just a tree. You could create flowers, like you could do like groupings of these stitches in petals, or, it just doesn't have to be a row of pop-up stitches. Sometimes I think we all get locked into the box of using the stitch as it is in the machine and not using it, in a different manner. So this is a really creative way to make a Christmas tree. All right. I'll kind of talk about how we bound the tree. So once you have your base made, then you can trim the applique fabric down. So then you could trim on the lines all the way around, and you'll have your tree. And of course, at this point, you've already done your work on your car. You've already stitched your car down. And the pattern is curved at the bottom here to fit the curve of the car. So you're going to nestle that in. And then you can use just a straight stitch and maybe your zipper foot. The zipper foot that came with your machine, you can adjust that needle outwards many positions. Or you could use the narrow zipper foot, which I really like. That's a long, thin zipper foot. And just tack it down along the line that you've cut to hold it in place. And then you want to kind of bind your tree. So it looks like you're actually taking it home from the tree farm. With the cording foot, or you could use a lot of different feet, honestly, for this. You could use a 3-hole yarn foot with just one yarn. You could use the 7-hole cord foot and maybe just use 2 cords. You could use the narrow braiding foot. We have a lot of feet listed that are great for adding embellishments. And this one, I did use the narrow braid foot and just a little tiny zigzag with matching thread for my gold trim here. To contain all the fluff in the beginning, it's a little hard. So you can put a piece of water-soluble stabilizer, the clear kind, the kind that looks like your saran wrap or whatever wrap you use. And you can kind of contain it, pin it down over it. I forgot to bring my saran wrap downstairs, so can't show you that part. And then do your stitching right through your saran wrap. That's how you're going to get nice clean lines. And just do a zigzag, looks like twine, holding your tree in place. After that's done and you've secured your cord ends at the beginning and end of your tree, then you can just easily pull away that water-soluble stabilizer, and then you can kind of fluff your tree up. And then you have your fluffy tree. So, all righty. Let me set this aside. Amy, any questions, concerns, comments to address?
No questions. Just the comments, and it looks like a very fun project. Very cute.
Good. I'm glad. And again, those instructions you can find via the link that Amy put in our description today for today's live. And the pattern is there, the instructions are there, and just make sure you print it to scale so that your project ends up the right size for the finished pillow. Okay. All righty. Let's see. Let me just take a peek at my notes and see what I wanted to show next. I want to show you next playing around with some feet, and we're going to do that using our gingerbread house. So let me grab it for you here. Hold on, I gotta grab something else. All right. So this one I have a copy of. Oh, you really can't see that very much, just the way my light is. There we go. Coming back for and this is called the Fabric Gingerbread Houses. The link is also in our description, and it's houses because there's 2 sizes. There's a traditional one, and then there's a tall skinny one. So you can make this gingerbread house in 2 sizes, or you know what, there's nothing that says you have to do it this size. This size just works really well if you are doing like some crafting, and maybe you can't find felt by the yard, because this is made out of felt. Let me turn it around for you. Here's our little gingerbread house. Here's our little roof. Okay. This size pattern works well with sheets of felt that you can buy at craft stores. So those 9x12 sheets of felt, I would get 4 for each, one for each side. So you need 4 per house. And then I'd get an extra 1 or 2 to practice your stitching on, so that you have the same kind of fabric to practice your stitching on. So as a reference point, this size house started off with felt that was 6 1/4 inches across. You could easily just make it 6 inches. And then from the bottom to the peak at the top, that measurement was 8 1/2 inches. And the point where the pattern piece turns is at 5 1/2 inches up from the bottom. I made that reference because I wanted to give my house some little frosting decorations there. And I needed to know what line to put that on. So I measured the pattern piece where the curve was. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move cameras again. And let's see here. Where do I have you at? Oops. Didn't click through all the right buttons yet, Amy. Hold tight. Oh. Well,
Yes, you do look like you've frozen a little bit there.
I think that's what's happened because everything on my end has gone dark on.
We'll get Kathy back in just a minute, folks. Sorry about that. Technical issues always seem to happen. It looks like Kathy is logged out and is logging back in, so give her another minute. Thanks for your patience. I don't know any jokes, Jamie. Kathy is using the Designer Epic 3 today. Jean, I see you asked that question. For these projects, you don't need software. These are free projects that are available on the Creativate website, which are linked in the description on both YouTube and on Facebook. DD on YouTube, if you hop over to the actual description of the event, you may need to increase the size of it. The links are right underneath where all of the feet are listed, the feet that Kathy recommends for embellishing. The links to the pop-up pine pillow and the gingerbread house should be right underneath there.
Amy, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you yet.
Yes, it told me that I needed to reload the page, which I did, but I see that my cameras are just my my computer camera is totally not functioning at all. Oh, there, now it's coming back on. Maybe. There we go. I'm back.
Yay!
Wow. I don't know if anything happened upstairs or not in the upstairs offices going on here, but I'm sorry about that, guys. I just some sort of internet hiccup. All right. I was getting ready to show you the gingerbread and some fun things with that. So let me see if I can get. Yay, there we go. There's my machine back. All right, and here's my. So, Amy, did you tell them some jokes while I was gone, or?
I said, I don't know any jokes. So, but yeah, we had a couple of questions just wondering what machine you were using. So I let everybody know, and
Okay.
that these are free projects, don't need to use software for them at all.
That's a really great point, Amy. And I mentioned this just as I was getting, kicked off or whatever happened, that this particular project, this gingerbread house, would be great to work with kids or teens or young people, or maybe even someone who is, like learning to sew or wants to learn to sew. And they, you don't really need lots of fancy stitches. I mean, we do have lots of fancy stitches on our machine, and we don't use them maybe to their fullest, but even if you have some simple stitches, maybe you have a basic mechanical machine and it has some of those stitches that go back and forth over themselves. They're usually called stretch stitches, but they can be fancy and they can be fun. Be a great way to just explore different stitches and get some fabric under the needle, so to speak. So, all right. Let's see here. Now my machine is being rather slow to respond. I'll switch you back here where I want you to be. All right, I want to show you. I have just a blank wall of a piece of gingerbread, and I just want to show you some stitches and some different things that we can do. I want to establish some shingles. So I'm going to pick stitch number 19 on my screen. I'm sorry, it is in menu C, satin stitches. And if you're using either the Designer Epic 3 or the Epic Quilt 97, or a version of that machine, it's found with the scallop stitches. This stitch has been around forever. Nice stitch, and I think it can be made to look like shingles. So I am going to turn off my single stitch program that I had on earlier and close that. All right, so it looks like a row of peaks. I want to flip it the other way, so that makes more sense to me on how I want to sew the stitch, and you'll see how that makes sense when I change the camera over. So I do have a white line. It doesn't show up great for you, but I have a white line drawn at my 5.5 inch mark. That is like where the roof bends or changes. So I'm going to do my first row of stitching right on that line. And you can see, hopefully you're seeing okay on the camera. Yep, you can see that I have my stitch preview on and my projection on, and I can get that lined up and just go ahead and stitch. Okay, so I've run out of fabric there. I'm just going to end that. Needed to get my foundation row on there so you could see that's going to be my first row of shingles. Okay, now this is going to end up being trimmed down, so I would draw my angle in here, and my white pencil is not cooperating. Let me try a different white marker. There we go. I'm just going to roughly draw in the peak. There is absolutely no need to fill up that whole rectangle up here with the stitches. I just need to fill this space here and enough into the seam allowances so I can see where I want the next row to stitch. Now, I don't necessarily want them exactly on top of one another. That's not very interesting. I might want to like overlap them a little bit. So with Stitch Preview, you can get an idea of, how many stitches you need and where to position that. Do you want them, end to end like so? Do you want them to overlap some? Do you want them to nest in between? However you'd like to do that, and then you could fill that whole row with shingles. Okay, that's just one example of how you could decorate one side of your gingerbread house. Now let's look at something else. Let's look at a foot. I'm just kind of out of your line of sight here. I'll be back in sight in just a minute here. All right. And okay, good. You're able to see this. This is the 3-hole yarn couching foot. This is really more of a cord than a yarn. That's okay. As long as it fits through those 3 holes. I've got 2 of the holes filled now. You're golden. You don't have to use yarn. You can use whatever fits through there. And as long as it will pass under the back of the foot, there is a channel cut out in the back so that the cords can still lay flat. So I wouldn't put like hard beads or anything like that under in that foot. I have my last cord already connected to the little threader that comes with it. And it's a clear threader on a little plastic stick. I'm going to poke that in. And hopefully, I know it's live TV, so, we already had one thing happen with the camera, so hopefully that won't. So I've got all 3 of my cords right here, ready to go. I always tie my cords together just as a practice so that, if I drop it, hopefully I won't drop it on the end that they're open. Just a little superstitious. Okay. All right, so we have those 3 cords like so, and I'm going to change my stitch, and there are special stitches built into the machine for working with this special foot. They're coordinating stitches is what I'm trying to say. Not doing a good job of it, but telling you that we do have some special stitches to use with that. They are found in our specialty stitch menu, and that's the J menu, J3 on our Designer Epic 3 and Epic Quilt 97. They're the first 5 stitches in this particular menu. Could you use something else? Absolutely. Could you do this on a zigzag sewing machine? Absolutely. You can thread some yarn or some braid or some trim under just your everyday sewing foot and choose a zigzag stitch, make it wide enough to encompass those threads or yarns, whatever you're using. And you can do something like this without having all exactly this setup I have going on here. Experimentation is, the root of learning and of exploring different things. So I want to see what it would look like if I put a row of these stitches next to this row of shingles. Maybe I want to intersperse my shingles. So with Stitch Preview turned on, and I just realized I need to get you back over here. With Stitch Preview turned on, I can see that stitch. You can see it right here. All right, so I can see how close I want it to be. The red line is like a guideline. And if I go back into projection, I can take that stitch guide and adjust it.
Uh-oh, Kathy, I think we lost your camera again.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, can't see you again.
Oh no. Oh my goodness. And I'm sorry, my back was to my computer screen and I didn't realize that. Let's see. Okay. This is working. All right. Let me try again. I'm looking, I have power to my main switcher, so nothing's flickering there, except it doesn't want to work. Great. Okay.
Are either of your cameras working?
Let me try. There we go. There. That one's back.
Yeah. Can you just use that one and switch it over? And we'll
Yeah.
try not to get seasick.
Right. Yeah. So sorry about that. What I was, where I was at when I got separated from you was I was just adjusting that red guide. I just wanted to show. I'll just tell you how I do it. It's inside projection. You can see me moving that red guide. That's just making it easier for me to stitch this. So I'm going to keep that red guide. There's my pointer. Here it is, up against that last row of stitching. And I won't do a lot since we've had so many technical difficulties. And I don't really have to do much with the threads with my yarns. I just let them be. I'm really focused on the red line, keeping it aligned with the stitches. And you can see that this goes back and forth a little bit. If I need to stop because I feel like maybe I need to, adjust my cords, I absolutely can. Needle down is your friend on any decorative stitching here. Now, I'm at the end of my row, and I didn't thread up lots of thread here, so I'm just going to cut my threads and my scissors. There's my scissors, and pull them out. If I was going to do like a lot of rows of this, I would just thread up a lot of yarn, long enough to just keep going row after row after row. But you can kind of see how pretty that could be as an accent on something. Let me see here. Let me go back into my stitches menu, and I want to show you another stitch. Just going to go to a simple zigzag. So a basic stitch. I know you can't see my screen because I'm playing it safe, just in case there's something wrong with that other camera that's causing it to go black on me. You're still seeing me, right, Amy?
Yes, we still have your your needle in the camera.
Right. Okay, good. All right, so this foot here is called the fancy trim foot, and it's a long clear foot with a square opening here at the front of the foot. So it stamps on back here. And it can be used to feed any sort of flat trim through. It could be like maybe a narrow braid or like that soutache braid or maybe even like baby rickrack would fit. But it's beautiful for sewing on sequins that come on a string. So these are not the stretchy kind. These are the single row sequins that you can easily find at a lot of craft stores and things. The secret to using it though is to make sure the scales are going downward or toward you as you're sewing. So like they're kind of like fish scales. So you just thread the end of the string through that foot, and then it'll flow real smoothly through the foot. I'm going to go ahead and snap it on. I'm sorry, my hand is in the way. I'll move in just a minute for you. Okay. There we go. And so maybe we want to do just some, decorative sequins for our gingerbread house. It could be represent lights. It could represent shingles. It could represent, just Christmas decoration, whatever you'd like. I'm going to choose a width of zigzag of about 4, and that I'm just going to sew on here, not necessarily any particular place. The tie off. Now I am going to change this a little bit. Now I would have normally taken the time to rethread in red thread for you, but I with our camera problems, I just didn't do that. I do have to be careful not to take my width too wide because I am using a machine that has a 9mm wide opening, and the opening on this foot is designed for a 7mm wide foot. So I do have to be careful on that. And then you can either, pull your sequins out and just trim the string here if you want to keep it threaded to do another row, or you could just pull it off. Okay. So that's a contrast thread. Again, for camera use, you can see it much better. I do sometimes use invisible thread, the clear. I like the polyester clear thread better than the nylon clear thread. To me, it doesn't stretch as much, but I just keep the regular thread in my bobbin. I don't use invisible thread in my bobbin. Stitch those sequins down. Okay. Alrighty. Amy, I'm going to see if we can come back to me, and I'll just hold something else up in front of the camera. Just give me a minute to get back over, since I know we are getting low on time. There we go. All right, let's see. Let's hope this works. There we are. Okay, we're illuminated now. I have this sample piece here. It's just going to be easier to hold it up. So here are some sequin stitches. These rainbow colored ones, just stitched on with some clear thread, and then pink ones as well. Aren't they pretty the way they reflect? For beads, we do have 2 sizes of bead foot. One is we'll take the 4mm beads, and the other will take the 2 to 3mm size beads here. The stitches that are recommended, I'm going to show you the back. So this row where my fingers are, this is where I have the beads sewn on. And so this stitch looks a little bit like a blind hem stitch or a pin stitch. And that's so that the zig or zag part of it jumps over the bead and not through the bead. And then the straight stitches run along the edge of the bead. So you don't even know that that's the kind of stitch you used unless you see that on the back, which is why I have this little sample to show you. Okay. Here is another example of a yarn stitch. Here, this gray little curved piece. Let me fold this to make it easier. And here I used a contrasting thread on purpose to show, a decorative look to it. But once again, you can couch yarn beads. The beads might be a little hard to do on a foot without a foot that has a channel in it, but you could certainly do sequins, ribbons, trims, anything like that. And one more sample. Let me make sure I have it right side up. This is a little mini quilt. These embroidery designs are on our Creative 8 design catalog, and they're just some more whimsical, Christmas designs. But the instructions to make this quilt had you making bias tape out of fabric and then making the window pane in it. And I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to use one of my feet. So I used yarn. So that's 3 strands of red yarn in using that 3-hole yarn foot, the same foot I just demoed for you, but to create like a little window pane effect. So, just because, the recommendation and instruction is to do a specific thing, doesn't mean you can't think outside the box and take it on your own as well. So I see we are like really close to our time. Amy, what questions can I answer before we remind them of our next lives?
I don't have any questions, but somebody did have a great suggestion. So
Okay.
those sequins that come on a string like that are flat sequins. So for people who have the decorative sequin stitches, it's a really great tip to go ahead and take those sequins apart, because those flat sequins are really hard to find.
That is so true. And thank you for bringing that up, whoever mentioned that, because that's my recommendation as well. I will buy those anytime I see them in the store. And then I have some little Ziploc bags, and I just take off, a yard or so and unstring them and put them in my bag so they're ready for those sequin stitches. So I love it. We think along the same lines. Thanks for sharing that. Anything else?
No other questions.
All right. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for hanging in with the technical difficulties. I have no idea what caused that, but some sort of internet glitch, I guess. Guess it was my turn for that. Our next Who's Front of Viking live is on November the 5th, and it's with Karen Charles. I'm not sure what she's going to share with us, but Karen, she'll always have something exciting and artistic to share with us. And then the following week on November 12th, for those of you who enjoy watching our software lives, we'll be on our Creative 8, also known as My Sonnet, channel with Janie Lance. Janie Lance is one of our premier educators on software. I've learned so much from her over the years, and she's going to be doing cut work. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So join us Wednesdays, November 5th and November 12th for more exciting learning. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.